Hey everyone, I'm here again in my virtual classroom. You may wonder, where is my virtual classroom? Well, my virtual classroom is my son's bedroom. Got a little corner right here, and that's kind of where I'm setting up my shop here. Hey, we got a fish of the day. Today's fish of the day is forage fish. It's these things here, and this is what we're taking notes on. Forage fish. What are forage fish? Forage means food. Forage fish are little fish that really their sole purpose is get eaten by big fish. Life would suck to be a forage fish. How would you go out and survive the day? I mean, if you're just this tiny fish swimming out there in the ocean, tiny fish, well, I'll tell you what, I got a forage fish right here. Here's a forage fish right here. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. This forage fish right here is it's probably about 5 years old. It gets about 6 inches big, maybe get up to about 8 inches big. This thing right here, how's it going to survive the day? Well, last class we talked about fish are colored. This is dark on the top, it's light on the belly. Let's see, what was that called again? Dark on the top, light on the belly. That's what it is, counter shading. So by being counter shaded, if you're above this thing, since it's dark on the top, I may not see it. If it's light on the belly, if it's below it, I may not see it. But anyways, it's just this small fish. It's out there swimming in the ocean. How is it going to survive? Excuse me, I want to set it down for a minute. What they're going to do is they're going to swim around with about 10,000 of its friends. Now, if it swims around with 10,000 of its friends, then maybe if it's going to be attacked by a bigger fish, maybe it's not going to be one of the fish that get eaten that day. Then this big fish is going to start eating these guys. How are you going to be the one that's going to survive the day? What they do is a survival method called balling. I want you to know what balling is. Balling is they swim together in this tight circle. And if they swim together in a tight circle, this fish right here can't just identify one of them to pick out. So wait for one of these forage fish to get out of the tight circle, and then it'll eat it. All the other ones, it'll kind of leave alone. So we're talking about forage fish. Small fish that get eaten by big fish. I want you to know that they survive by balling. Next thing I want you to know, last class we talked about how they reproduce. They're oviparous. See, wait for it to come in your head. Oviparous. Lay eggs. So they survive by balling. They're oviparous. What else I want you to know? That they're small fish that are out there getting eaten by big fish. Those three things. General things about forage fish. Let me go back to the forage fish I dropped on my son's floor. So here you go. This little fish right here. Right there is his mouth. So it's got this big bucket mouth. It has these huge cheeks. I'm feeling inside. I don't feel any teeth. So what they do is they swim around, and with this big mouth, it just kind of opens it up and eats zooplankton and phytoplankton. Swim around with 10,000 of his friends. I wish I could clue up the blue planet right now. There's some great footage of forage fish being attacked by predators and them getting their ball in their ball. Now, that's a smelly fish. Now, I want you to know about four types of forage fish that are here in the Puget Sound area. The first one is the herring, Herring. Each one of these forage fish, they look different physically, and they each have a different way of laying eggs. And that's what I want you to know about them. The herring is this one right here. And what makes it different from any other type of forage fish is, man, it's got huge scales on it. That's what I want you to write down in your notes. Herring have huge scales. Next thing I want you to write down in your notes is how they lay their eggs. Is it in there? Do you have it? Because we talked about it with seaweeds. Is it coming back to you yet? With seaweeds, we said that there's a certain type of fish that lays their eggs on eelgrass. And it's this guy. Herring lay their eggs on eelgrass. That's what I want you to write down. Now, do they ever lay eggs? They lay 10,000 eggs. One of these things are going to go around and lay 10,000 eggs on the eelgrass. Then the male's going to come over and do what the males do to it and fertilize it. Again, if we were in class right now, I'd show you about the blue planet, and it shows the herring migration up in Alaska. And all these herring, they go around, they get eaten by sea lions, they get eaten by whales, they get eaten by seagulls, and then they all go to the eelgrass right next to the shore where they're going to lay their eggs. Herring. Next one I want you to know, I got to move my dumb board back, is the sand lance. What we're doing is different types of forage fish. We got the herring, and this is the sand lance. How is it different physically? Well, let me draw a little fish right here. On a fish, the first fin on the back is called the dorsal fin. And what sand lance have is they have a dorsal fin that goes the length of its back. That's what you're going to write down for sand lance. Herring, it just has one little dorsal fin right up here. Sand lance, they have a dorsal fin that goes the length of their back. Sand, wonder why they're called the sand lance. How they lay their eggs. They lay their eggs. They swim around offshore. They're getting ready to lay their eggs. And then they wait for high tide. And they wait until the water gets as high as it can on the beach. And then they take a run at it. And they're swimming as hard as they can. They jump out of the water. They land on the sand out of the water. They flop as far as they can up out on the sand. There, they lay their eggs. Then the males come and they fertilize the eggs out of water on the sand. And then what they do is they flop back into the water and they swim away. How great is that? Wow, that is so awesome, because now you're laying your eggs not in the water where all the water predators are. You're going to lay them on the sand. The sand is really, the eggs are really sticky. And what sand does is sticks to the outside of the eggs and it covers them up. So not even land predators can see it. You're asking a great question. Well, how do the babies get to the water? When the babies are born, they're about a ½ inch big and they're completely transparent. And since the beach is at an angle, they start flopping. And when they flop, they'll eventually flop back into the water and swim away. Oh, I want you to know something else about the sand lance. It has a nickname. They have a nickname of the candlefish. How does the sand lance get a nickname as the candlefish? Man, I'm telling you, life as forage fish would be scary. You're always being attacked. You're always being trying to eaten by bigger fish. You try to survive by bowling. But what you do at night, God, you can't see your predator. What the sand lance do is they must get scared. And what they do is they stick their heads in the sand. And when they stick their heads in the sand, if you're a diver, you'll go diving down at night. And with your flashlight, you'll point it around the bottom where all the sand is. And you'll see a bunch of things sticking out of the sand like candles. That's how they get their nickname, the candlefish. They get their nickname because at night, they go down to the bottom and they stick their heads in the sand. Man, this is going great. Next one is the surf smelt. Surf smelt. Again, each one of these is physically different and they lay their eggs in a different way. Well, the surf smelt, how's it physically different, is it has an extra fin on the back. I said the first fin is called the dorsal fin. Oh, dorsal. D-O-R-S-A-L. But these, they have another fin in the back. This one here. And because it has an extra fin, it gets a new name. It's called the adipose fin. Oh, are you making connections? Adipose. What does adipose mean? You're right. Adipose means fat. So this is a fin back here that's made up of fat. Oh, make more connections. What did we learn last class? Last class, we learned that fat has a specific gravity of 0.8, which means it floats. Oh, how great would that be to have a fin back here that floats? What it does is it lifts this back end up a little bit, makes it easier for him to swim. Good thinking. Surf milk. How's it physically different? It has an extra fin called an adipose fin. How it lays its eggs, also different. Surf milk are this, anadromous. Anadromous. Anadromous means they go up a river to lay their eggs. Oh, like salmon are anadromous. Well, so anadromous, you go up a river to lay their eggs. The surf smelt, they go up a river and they're going to lay their eggs in fresh water. One river that they go up here in the Puget Sound area is the Skagit River. And they don't go that far up. They go up to about Mount Vernon. If you ever been to the Skagit River about Mount Vernon, I'd ask you, are there any rocks on the bank? And you'd think about it and you go, no. It's just a really muddy bank. And the reason why it's always muddy there is because every time the river floods, the water, when it floods, gets really dirty because it scoops up a lot of mud. And then it slows down around Mount Vernon. So all that mud settles down to the bottom and washes up on the bank. So the bottom of the Skagit River by Mount Vernon is just feet thick of mud. And that's where these guys lay their eggs. Now, mud is terrible for an egg. If mud goes up and around in an egg, the egg inside cannot get any oxygen from the water. So the baby inside is going to suffocate and die. What the surf smelt does is that it has an egg, and then when it's laid and it hits the mud, it has an outer membrane that pops. And when it pops, it forms a pedestal, and it lifts the egg up out of the mud. Yeah, I want you to know all that. The surf smelt. They have an adipose fin. They're anadromous, which means they go up a river to lay their eggs. And then when they lay their egg, they have an outer membrane that pops, and it lifts their egg up out of the mud. I want you to know that. I got 3 minutes to finish up this notes. Next is the anchovy. Anchovy. What they have is they have a really big eye and a big mouth. I mean, they have big eyes and big mouth. Why? Why does it have big eyes and big mouth? I'll tell you why. They do vertical migration. I want you to know that. They do vertical migration. Vertical migration is where you go down during the day and then you come up at night. So you're always surrounded by darkness. Because you're always surrounded by darkness, you need a big eye because you don't have much light going in. You need a big mouth because you can't get really close to food. You just somewhere in the vicinity. Next, it lays its eggs. Its eggs have a drop of oil in them. Write it down. Their eggs have a drop of oil in them. Make connections. What does that mean? Well, if it has a drop of oil in them, oil floats. Shh, the egg's going to float. Why would it be great to have your egg float? Make connections. Think. What's the water like up at the top? You're right. It's warmer up there. Now, if it's warmer up there, what does it mean? You're right. The eggs will develop faster. And oh, sister and brothers, do they develop faster? These eggs, they'll hatch in 30 hours. Because it's so warm up there, the egg will hatch in 30 hours. Yes, it's going to float at the top where all the predators could see it and eat some. But in 30 hours, the anchovy is going to hatch and it's going to swim away. Those were our notes right there. What we're talking about is forage fish, small fish that get eaten by big fish. They're oviparous. They survive by balling. We talked about the herring. We talked about the sandlets. We talked about the surf smelt. We talked about the anchovy. God. On Google Classroom, got a worksheet I want you to fill in. Since I'm not asking review questions before and after class, I got to have you ask yourself these zones questions. So I'm going to make up these worksheets. Thanks.